Oppenheimer, man. I went and saw this the first day it came out. It actually was Friday was the day it actually came out, but they had those preview screenings on Thursday. And I got my ticket well in advance. I mean, I saw this preview 7 months ago, and I don't really circle too many dates for movies anymore. There's just not a lot of good stuff that comes out. And Mike, I can't tell you the last time I was blown away. I mean, you read the blog. I think I conveyed my feelings pretty well on that. Just a stunning movie. You know, I know we see all these movies about the apocalypse and zombie apocalypse and, you know, like dystopian flu vaccines and all this shit on vaccines, you know, viruses or whatever. This is about the actual fucking apocalypse. This is about, you know, the earth blowing itself up because of mankind. And obviously, you know, it's 2023. We're all still here. We know, like, how the movie pretty much turned out. But for a movie that, you know, though it's not an action movie, there are some scenes that you're on the edge of your seat. But, Mike, I never had a movie that grabbed me, like I said in my video, by the collar. It just, like, kind of shakes you for 3 hours because you know what the stakes are. And you realize, oh, my God, I didn't realize how close we were. Like, for, you know, when they tested the first bomb out, like, they were pretty sure how it was going to go, but there was a possibility that it could have been a lot worse, like where the whole atmosphere could have caught fire. And, you know, they didn't know they could have ended the earth with that test when they were testing out the nuclear bomb. It's not really a spoiler alert. It's pretty well known. But it was just a stunning achievement for a movie that Christopher Nolan did because of the topic, because the whole world changed then. And Oppenheimer, you know, he didn't invent it by himself. That was another thing. It was educational. He was kind of almost like the general manager who went out and got all the good scientists, brought them in to the Manhattan Project, which is the secret project out in New Mexico, to design, to come up with the idea, and then to actually make the bomb. I mean, science beyond our level of comprehension. I mean, me and you, we're not the biggest, you know, exactly.
Of course, a nuclear bomb, that's way out of my range.
And you know, of course, it was like, okay, the Nazis have it. They're 2 years ahead of us. So now we have to catch up to the Nazis and get ahead of them. And there was a great quote. Oppenheimer says, you know, he goes, I don't know if we could trust ourselves with this. He goes, but I know we can't trust the Nazis with it. And I was like, you know, I know everyone's second, Monday morning quarterback, and especially younger viewers who, you know, who are finding sympathy for the Japanese here. And, you know, there's obviously a horrific element to nuclear weapons, but I think a lot of the current movie-going audience has the inability to kind of put themselves into that era and how things were. I mean, you know, the world was at war. I mean, people were coming to kill us and take us over. You know, it was a survival technique. They had to, like, figure it out and how to survive. And I know people, they didn't have to drop it or they had to drop it. I'm not really debating the merits of at that point in the war, but, you know, he was tasked with making this thing, putting a team together. But the acting, man, you know, Cillian Murphy, I know I called him Cillian before. I've heard it pronounced both ways. I thought it was Cillian Murphy. That's what I'm going to go with. I mean, I've been watching this guy since 28 Days Later. Phenomenal performance. He's definitely going to get an Academy Award for nomination. At least he should win it. I mean, I don't know what Leo's going to do in that Scorsese movie later in the summer. Just a phenomenal performance. This guy, he lost a ton of weight. You could just see the weight of the world in his face, just in his acting. Matt Damon was great. Robert Downey Jr., like I wrote in the blog, I think everybody got used to him being Iron Man for the last 15 years, and they either forgot or didn't know that this guy's a tremendous actor. I mean, he was nominated 30 years ago for Chaplin, Robert Downey Jr. Great flick, by the way, if you've never seen it. Phenomenal performance by him. Emily Blunt, you know, she's kind of always smiling when you see her in Preston. She was like kind of a grumpy alcoholic wife in this one. She was tremendous in it. But then you look at all the side characters. I mean, there were 3 actors, I won't name one of them, who won Academy Awards for acting, and they had what were essentially bit parts of this movie, almost like cameos. So that's like, I mean, Christopher Nolan comes calling. People, like, they take less pay. All these big actors, they took way less pay to be in this movie. And I walked out just stunned. Like, it was like the quality of the movie, how good it was, the writing, the directing, the sound. I mean, I forget how to pronounce the composer's name, but the sound is there the whole time. It's almost like you forget about it. And that adds such an element, like, of making you, like, on the edge of your seat. You feel the stakes of what's at play here, largely because of the movie. But the supporting cast was incredible. Like, 2 guys, like, remember Josh Hartnett? Not remember, he's still with us, but in Pearl Harbor. I haven't seen this guy in anything lately. This guy, he looks fantastic, first of all. He was incredible in it. And the guy, David Krumholtz, who's like the epitome of a character actor. You've seen him in tons of things. Awesome. Those 2 guys, they're probably not going to get nominated, but they definitely deserved it. And the feedback, man, you know, when people say, oh, it was boring, it was long, it's like, hey, man, it tells more about the people saying that it does anything. Like, oh, like that dope we work at. I like Stephen Shea, but, like, roll that dopes clip.
All right, coming out of Oppenheimer, quick thought. It is a sheep in wolf's clothing. I thought it was going to be an action movie all about war. It was for about hour 45-ish. The last hour and 15 minutes is fucking C-SPAN. It is a courtroom case. Part of it's in black and white. It is just not what I thought at all. Dr. Robert Oppenheimer obviously invented the atomic bomb. Interesting story around that. I'm not sure it was very well acted. It was fine. Not a ton of character development. He seemed like kind of a dickhead, but brilliant. The last hour 15 could have done without. Could have completely cut out, and it would have been a much better movie. The fact that we had to listen to this kangaroo court hearing about his character, ridiculous, terrible, made the movie not repeat watchable. You're not going to want to recrotch it. It was all right. Also, the trailers, I don't know if it was just the theater I was at. We got 2 previews. I want to see like 5, 6 previews. We got 2. If no shade to my local theater, though.
I mean, Steve J, I've known you as long as anybody at the company. Big fan of yours, but what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I thought the acting was so. I mean, dude, this is about to sweep the Academy Awards next year. I mean, there's a long way to go, but how can you say I guess the acting was okay? I mean, this is like career best performances from people. I thought there was going to be action. It was a war. It's like, where did you think this is a World War II movie? The fucking title's Oppenheimer. It's about the guy. It wasn't just about, okay, we made the bomb, movie over. No, it was about, the fucking, this guy was the hero one day, and then they turn him around, and they kind of, now he's not the hero anymore. It was his whole guy's life, his whole life's work.
All right. I have so many questions here.
All right, fire away.
First off,
you gotta cut me off.
I've seen so many people online talking about, like, making jokes about, like, the 70 millimeter, and, like, that's how, like what's going on? Like, how should this film be viewed, whether it's IMAX? What is this 70 millimeter stuff? Like, can you kind of just explain this to me?
Yeah, 70 millimeter it's just a style of film. A lot of people, directors don't really use film anymore, and there's very few theaters that can accommodate a 70 millimeter reel. It's real cinema nerd stuff, and I'm probably not the best guy to break it down. It's just like a difference in quality, the way it comes out on the screen, the way it projects. I mean, again, I couldn't really break down the actual specifics, but it's a better experience to see it somewhere like that.
How did you see it?
I saw it on the IMAX up in Reading, Mass, at the Jordan's Furniture in Reading. That is actually the best screen in New England. It's the biggest IMAX screen.
I love that place.
There's IMAX, and then there's what's called LIMAX. And me and Whitney fought about this in the show one time. It's IMAX. There's the real IMAX. There's the way they're intended to be seen, and then there's like what they call LIMAX, like over the Boston Common Theater. It says IMAX, but it's not real IMAX screen. It's not the real IMAX experience. They use the IMAX film reel for it, I believe. So it's not the real IMAX experience. But that's where I saw it. I mean, the sound, the seats are rumbling, just the whole screen's in front of you. I would suggest if you could see IMAX, real IMAX, go there. If you have the opportunity for 70 millimeter, go there. And there are only 30 places in the world where you could see it in IMAX and 70 millimeter. Like, that's like combines the 2 best versions. And I might even go down to Providence to see it a second time, because Providence has one of these theaters to see it. Now, having said that, when I did my little 1-minute review, you could watch this on a 13-inch black and white TV, Mike, and I think it would have maybe not 100% the same effect, but it will kind of punch you in the face. Like I said, the ending, the way he wrapped it up, and Christopher Nolan, he's a fan of what they call non-linear storytelling. It's not straight through it. He jumps from one timeline to another and back to this one. And it's not like Tenet or Inception, where you're like, oh, what the fuck's going on here? Because you guys have gray hair in one scene, or they look younger in another. It's pretty easy to follow. And but the way he like kind of masterfully weaved them all together, so when it all wraps up in the end, you're just kind of like, oh my god! It just from a script and filmmaking perspective, it was like mind blowing. And then when you go and watch what the actual scenes were and what gets said in them, I mean, I was flabbergasted at the end of the movie. It just absolutely like jaw dropper. And I think I said, put it right in the headline, man. It's a movie. It's odd. Everyone will interpret it a different way, but I was kind of like, man, it's scary. It's kind of scary, and it's just kind of a reminder of this is the world we live in. I know your generation didn't grow up with the Cold War. Like, I mean, we grew up, man, in the 70s and 80s. We didn't know if the Russians were going to bomb us in a minute. Like, it was kind of a scary time, and until the Berlin Wall fell and the Eastern Bloc fell and all that stuff. But for this, I mean, 70s and 80s came out. There was a movie the day after. I'm not sure if you had heard of it. It imagined the nuclear holocaust in America. I mean, it was horrifying. It was on in 1984 or something. So we grew up with this fear. So I don't know if younger kids or younger generations didn't have that. So maybe they're not relating to the material as much. But I know I'm going along here. I couldn't recommend it enough. Go see it. If you thought it was too long, too boring, I guess that's on you. Maybe you're not ready to see the movie. But A+ full marks for Oppenheimer. Go see it if you can.
All right. So without giving too much away in the movie, and like you said, this is a true story, so there's really not many spoilers that you can give away, but like, tell me about this Oppenheimer guy. Like, I've been seeing on Twitter that like he was a lunatic. Like, he was just like a crazy person. Like, he like attacked his, I think the dog walk was talking about how he like attacked his friend after his friend said he was getting married or something. Like, can you just tell me about this Oppenheimer guy? And was he just like before any of this, I thought he was just like a scientist, and like it seemed like he lived like a really crazy, interesting, not demented, but crazy life.
I mean, he's definitely a complex fella. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Complex, that's the word.
Yeah. He's certainly a complex. I mean, I think a lot of people, that's not a huge thing. A lot of people are complex, like myself, I guess I should say, but he was a brilliant physicist, brilliant scientist, and I guess it was quantum physics was a relatively new field after Einstein, has the theory of relativity. He was a brilliant mind. Now, I'm not a science guy, a science history guy, but I went down some, Twitter threads or whatever, or Instagram, and, like the science nerds were arguing, who's the best scientist ever. And I guess he was a pretty brilliant mind, but he could have been all timer as far as like quantum physics, but like I said, he didn't go in a room by himself and invent the bomb. He put all these scientists together and got it together. I think he was kind of fucked up. They do show one scene in the movie where I was like, holy shit, like he does something like, oh, this guy's fucking crazy, and then he sort of undoes it, so it didn't play out the way it was supposed to. Nothing to do with the bomb. I mean, he was a sex addict, I guess. He was always running around getting ass on the side, and he was definitely a different guy. And I think the movie was showing that. They didn't deify him. They didn't make him this this godlike figure. They showed him as the flawed man he was. But I don't know that he was like a lunatic. I think he was a guy who had interest in a lot of different things, and he'd be willing to hear them out. Like the knock on him was that he was a communist. Like, they didn't want to bring him into the fold, though. He was suspected of communist activities. Well, he back in the 20s and 30s, I mean, people had friends who were part of the Communist Party. I know, people that say, oh, commies, blah, blah, blah. It was a different time. There were Americans who, formed like groups to talk about it. He was just like an intellectual, intellectually curious. But he's definitely had some, I don't say skeletons in his closet. But I thought the movie showed like, this guy's not perfect, and he just, he changed as his life went on and different ideas and stuff. But I thought that the flick showed that. But as far as like being absolute nut, maybe he was if you read the book. I didn't really see that too much in the movie, though, except for that one scene early.
Did you catch Barbie at all this weekend, or you just see Oppenheimer?
Just Oppenheimer. I didn't do the Barbenheimer thing.
Barbenheimer.
I'll definitely see Barbie too. I mean, when they first making it, I was like, oh man, it's kind of the goofy intellectual property movie. But I'm definitely going to see it though at some point. I mean, I know people, a lot of guys seem to be threatened by it, whatever. It's a fucking movie. Go see it, and yeah, I'm going to look forward to it. It's not like on my number one to-do list though.